Hello and welcome to yet another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. If you're watching this on video, it's not a podcast. It's a video about podcasting. If you want the podcast, it and 87 others are available at podcastpontifications.com. So today I was looking to political politics, and this is not about politics. This is about podcasting, I promise. And it was all about the coming woes over Brexit and how out of control it's gotten. And it led me to think about, podcasting almost is an out of control situation. We think, podcasters, that we are in control of our podcast. We, podcasters who've been at this for a very long time, are completely in control of our podcasts. Many of the strong, loud voices in the industry will say various things about control this, make sure your RSS from your web, and blah, blah, blah. Make sure you have complete and total control. But I got news for you. It's all a sham. The assumption that you are in control, 100% control of your podcast is false. And I started thinking about that, and I just jotted down, over the course of 2 minutes, 10 reasons. 10 reasons why you're really not in control of your podcast. So this is really about understanding that and then making sure that you, during 2019, because that's happening in just a few weeks, making sure that you understand, because you can't fix these, making sure you understand these aspects and at least have some semblance, if not control, but at least a solid understanding so that you can act accordingly, I suppose is what it is. So again, I'm in no particular order. This is just me running down the 10 things that you use to make your podcast probably, that you have zero control over. And if they were to fail, if any of these were to fail, they would likely have an impact on your show. Perhaps not a lethal impact, but a certain impact that will make you scramble. So the number one biggest thing that you probably don't control is your hosting. You, like me, probably utilize the service of a podcast hosting company. Now, if you're smart, you've chosen ones that have at least somewhat solid financials, who've got a long track record, who seem to be in the game for a while, who have a good understanding and probably won't go away tomorrow, but you never know. And there's a lot of new companies getting into the marketplace right now, burning lots of VC money. They may not be there. What do you do about something like that? Well, the good news is most of these companies make your podcast portable, but you should always maintain copies of your files. If you're not maintaining original copies of your files, and I'm talking uncompressed, big, fat audio files, you're not doing it properly, as well as your MP3s. But be ready to move at a moment's notice, even though that's not super easy because it's probably your media files and your hosting. And even, by the way, if you think that, hey, Evo, I'm using AWS or some other server, I'm rolling my own, I'm in control. No, you're not. You're not. Things can happen. Things can go bad. So you need to make sure you have good backups. Because I guarantee you, if you're the kind of person who's done it on his or her own and is rolling your own hosting, you probably get this better than most. So you likely have a good backup solution. But if not, if you followed some online tutorial that said, here's how to get free hosting with AWS or super cheap hosting with Google's cloud-based programs, whatever, just understand that things change and can go away. And you don't be left holding the bag. Number two, tracking. Tracking. There's a lot of tracking that's happening right now. A lot of tracking companies that are out there right now, from PodTrack to, there was just a new announcement of a place called Cast Plus, I believe is what it was called. I don't even remember. That doesn't sound right. Cast dot something or other. They were a tracking program to give analytics and other things, and they're gone. So anybody who was using that service, the way that service worked is you prepended your, and this is technical, I apologize. You basically sent your hosting company an email and said, hey, instead of pointing all of my files at your servers, can you first redirect them here and then back in? It's a pretty simple thing to do. But now with that company going away, if you were using that redirect service, well, that redirect service is going away. And if you don't get your podcast hosting company to change it back, if you forget, if you didn't get the email, your files aren't available and you'll wonder why. So be sure before you implement any sort of weird tracking program that it's, working the way you want it to be. What about your website? Your website could crash. Website could be hacked. Your website hosting company, if you're using a cheapo hosting company, could go down, or even a really good hosting company. They may change their business model. Happened to me once. I was with a great hosting company, fully managed hosting, and I was paying them a small amount of money. And then they said, hey, we can't support that anymore. We're now only supporting big enterprise projects, so you've got X number of months to get off our platform. Not in control of my podcast. Or you could use some other service that's hosting all your stuff, like Tumblr right now. A lot of people were using, I shouldn't say a lot, some people were using Tumblr as their host. Tumblr is basically self-imploding right now. What are you going to do about that? Yeah, what are you going to do about that? Then there's the actual hardware you use to record your show. Your PC could crap out on you. Your MacBook could die. Your hard drives could lock up and fail, and you'd no longer have access to your bed music or the other aspects of your show that make it work for you. Technology changes all the time. You might get a brand new computer and sit down and say, okay, Sunday I'm going to do all my stuff. I got my computer on Saturday, and this new computer doesn't have the same USB inputs you were used to before, and you're going, oh, crap. I have an interview scheduled in 5 minutes. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? You're not in control over all of those aspects. What about marketing? Right? You're doing some marketing campaigns, and that marketing campaign you're utilizing is gone. You know, maybe it's an email program that you're utilizing. Maybe you've got some email marketing company that's helping spread your message, and that company goes away. Maybe some other sort of platform happens that you were trusting to get information about your show or about your audience or to share information, and then that place is up and gone. What are you going to do? You can recover, but what are you going to have to do about that? Social sites. I mentioned Tumblr earlier, but I'm thinking about things like, Facebook, which if I'm a little scattered today, it's because Facebook was not playing nice as I was trying to record the video that goes along with this show. Those platforms change. Those requirements change. And if you were utilizing those to reach a larger audience and suddenly new rules get put in place and changes, you're not in control. You just have to adapt as much as you possibly can. Now, also, what about government regulation? We just went through GDPR in the EU, which changed big time lots of things. For most podcasters, no big change for the podcasters that we had out there today, right? We didn't really make any major issues, which is great and fine, but you never know what could be the next thing coming down the pike. As the governments change on how we do things, on how we can do things, not just the U.S. government, but the European government or any government around the world, they may enact different changes. That's going to cause a major impact on your podcast that you can't control. What about the various services that you utilize to record your podcast every single week? I'm talking about the Skypes, the Zencasters, whatever you're utilizing if you have a remote guest. What are you going to do with that? What about the software? Did I talk about software earlier? I don't remember if I talked about software. The software that I utilize to record this program could change and modify and no longer actually function any longer. Oops. Then I got to go find something new. May not be compatible with my current system. That's not a great thing. And then what does this last thing say? This is a terrible reason when you can't actually look at that. Oh, I guess the final one is what about apps and directories and other massive changes, right? We rely on directories and apps to get our podcast out to people, to have a place where people can subscribe. But what if they're gone? What if those companies drastically change the way they do business, or they realize that we can't do this anymore, and 15% of your audience you've pushed to this app because it was cool, and you thought it was a better experience than going with the tried and true, and suddenly that app closes shop and says we're going away. Those people that are subscribed, you're lost. Look, you're not ever 100% in control of your podcast. And that's the nature of doing business in 2019 and beyond, and it has been for years. We can't be in complete and total control. And that's okay. But what you need to do, the underlying message, if there is one here, is that understand that. And understand as many of the pieces as you possibly can so that when the worst case scenario happens or something close to it, you can at least recover. You don't want to be caught with your pants down. You need to make sure you got a good, solid strategy in place. Oh, hey, here's an idea. If you need help with the strategy and you're a business podcast, get in touch with me, because launching podcasts for businesses, professional service providers, even influencers, that's what I do. You can go to podcastlaunch.pro to check out all the services I'm currently offering and send me an email, evo@podcastlaunch.pro. And let's talk maybe about getting you up and running. I'll be back tomorrow with yet another podcast pontifications. Cheers!